right, let's start the show again. Now, this is a nice interview from a gentleman that was supposedly a gangster or something like it in the 1950s, and he says he enjoyed it. Now, there's a difference between the mentality back then and the mentality today, and I want to point those things out right now. And politicking, we're gonna politic a little bit. Let's hear this gentleman out.
Career was a real ball. You know, it was an exciting adventure to me. I was a delinquent not because I was forced to. I mean, I was a delinquent because I wanted to be one. You know, yeah, all of these things.
Was your idea of being good, as you say in the book somewhere? They got to tell you to be good, and this is the way you knew how to be good. Was to be good at stealing.
I was enjoying life as I came, and many of the people I came up with were enjoying life also. They were enjoying taking drugs. They were enjoying shooting each other. They were enjoying the gang fights. We all enjoyed it. It was a ball. It gave us a sort of social status, and we enjoyed stealing.
You were making a rep all
That's
the
right.
time, as you put it.
Like
A reputation for being tough.
Yeah, this was meaningful to us.
This guy is hitting the nail on the head. This was the media. This was the media and the doctors and all these people making a case for criminality and for criminals to paint criminals as victims. It's fucking fun. You do it because it's easy. You do it because it's fun. You do it because it's empowering. You do it because you're a fucking bully. You do it because you're a little savage. Children are nothing more than little savages that we must educate, or they become thugs and bad guys and take us over. Your child will destroy society if you don't educate him. He's not going to grow up to be benevolent and good. He's going to grow up to be a fucking barbarian. And it's fun being a barbarian. And it's easy.
Us in life, and it was perhaps the most meaningful experience available to us at the time. But many of the other guys with whom I came up weren't able to perceive it was time to stop playing here and now. You know, if I'd gone to Coxsackie, I would have had a criminal record which would have presented an obstacle in the way of my advancement, economic and social advancement for the rest of my life. And
now, this kid is very intelligent. Probably comes from a good home, because a lot of people don't think about that shit. I was not thinking about criminal records. Unfortunately, I was not thinking about that. And he was. No one thinks about that shit at that age. That's insane. Good for him.
And this was the time
when the differences between prior to the 1960s and now.
I had to make a choice. I had to find a way to avoid going on up along the roster of the New York State penal institutions. You know, like I would have gone to Coxsackie, Elmira, Auburn, Dannemora, Sing Sing, and eventually Attica, perhaps. Or if I didn't make the electric, Attica is the top security prison in New York.
But so at the age of 16, you just decided that was it. You'd had your sort of childish fun and games, and if you didn't cut it right there, you'd be through for life.
That's right. At 16, the party was over.
Yeah, but what did you didn't have any specific ambitions at 16, though, when you talk about economic and...
The party's over for most people nowadays. If it is over at like 25, 32, you mature a lot slower now also, in my opinion.
Social advance. A lot of people who talk
I knew I wanted to make money. I wanted to make money, and I didn't want to spend too much time in jail in the process of making this money.
Say right now, we go out on these streets and there's 16-year-old kids walking around. Do they have any feeling that there are chances for them, that they can make it big in the world?
Well, I didn't have any feeling that there were chances for me, but I knew it was out there somewhere, and I had to get it.
You had to get it, you yourself, by yourself.
That's right.
And it didn't really occur to you that being a Negro was going to, well, obviously occur to you.
What's the question? I already know where he's going with. He's going to ask him if being a black was an impediment to him. And he's already telling him that it wasn't. That he had no time to think about that shit. He's already, you see, this is why do whites do that? Why do they ingrain the bullshit? Like, if you feel sorry for us, that's on you, motherfucker. Don't come bring that shit over here. If you're not gonna give me fucking $1,000 keep it fucking moving, dude.
It's gonna make it difficult, but it didn't occur to you to make it impossible as a kid. Did it occur to any of your friends that it was impossible for them?
No, I don't think we thought too much about it. We knew what we wanted, and we were so involved in our problems that we never gave too much.
any minority listening to this, especially my black friends, any motherfucker coming with this bullshit to you that you were downtrodden, that this is that and the dirt, ask him, why are you telling me this? Oh, we want to help somehow. Give me $1,000. If you want to help, just give me $1,000. Because if not, this shit's not helping. You can tell me all this shit. It's not gonna help me get paid more. Don't tell me anything positive. Just leave me the fuck alone, or give me a fucking $1,000. But don't come fucking preach to me. Same goes for your fucking reverend too, or your fucking community organizer or leader, whoever the fuck is preaching bullshit. The preaching the gospel of help. No, give me money. That's what's gonna help me. Give me a job, a good job, $1,000 a week job to start off, or shut the fuck up and let me fucking find it.
Thought to the social and economic restraints on us.
Yeah.
All we knew that we had to get it, and we wanted to get it then and there.
In some way. Well, like all kids.
I live in Harlem now. I've lived in Harlem all my life. I've never tried to be white. I've never had any desire to be white, and
You think
I
Martin
still
Luther
know
King
the
has a
people. I
desire
still
to be
know
white?
the people on the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still speak to them in argot. There are very few people around here that know me by Claude Brown.
Sonny.
If they went, it's still Sonny Boy, and that's fine with me, you know. And I know them by, whatever their nicknames are. We grew up together. I still feel as though I'm an integral part of the Harlem community.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the home.
Call him Sonny Boy and doesn't get offended. Call someone Sonny Boy now, and you might look at this and you might be like, I'm being an Uncle Tom or whatever the hell you want to call me, whatever the fuck you want to think. But realistically, so even if they called you Blackie, who gives a shit, bro? You could call me Blackie. You could call me fucking Plátano. You could call me fucking Bean. I don't get. I have had nicknames like that. I don't give a fuck, dude. But that's like a difference. Like in the Dominican Republic, where I come from, there's a lot of black people, right? A lot of black people. We call each other all sorts of black names based on our skin tone and whitey and all sorts of shit, because it doesn't matter, because we're all Dominican. We have an understanding that we're all Dominican. And I think that's what this guy's trying to say right here. And you know what? We've lost that. That's one of the things that we've lost. And it's, I think, the most important thing that we've lost. We've lost the fabric that puts us together, that common culture. Yeah, he knows he's just Sonny Boy from Harlem, but he knows he's from Harlem. He's part of the community. And as long as he's well behaved, no one's going to have animosity towards him. And he can also have animosity towards other people because he's part of the community. If the white guy misbehaves, he doesn't have to say hi to the white guy.
The statistics, I know you hate statistics and you hate social science and all that sort of thing, but there's a certain crude truth in these reports. Recently, a report on the Negro family was made as the so-called Moynihan report. It hasn't been made public yet, and one of the things it stresses is the very high rate of illegitimacy in Harlem. I don't know, something like 44% of all births last year. And
44%. If only it were 44% now. Look it up. I'm sure it's in the 70s or higher. And I'm lowballing here. The illegitimacy birth rates, births without wedlock, out of wedlock.
It talks about the difficulty of kids growing up with an absent father, which of course was not your case. You did grow up with a family, a father and mother, and sisters and a brother, just one brother, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you feel that this is a really crucial problem? I mean, from the way you look at it, say from the way you look at it as a Harlem kid, or do you think that this sort of analysis is misguided? And
tell me something. Why do you think that various government, city and federal government agencies are always so anxious to come up with a report? You know, the people in Harlem don't need any reports.
What do they need?
The people in Harlem need people who are sincerely interested in them as members of the power structure. What they need is genuine representation.
Right.
And this is something which they don't have.
Yeah, but how do they get it? That's we started talking about that before. How do they get it?
How do they get it? They get it by the power structure, the administration
Which power
doing
structure
away,
you're talking about now?
The general from the Harlem power structure on up, you know, throughout to the federal, to the top, the federal power structure.
All right.
Yeah,
The White House on down.
Yeah, just, you know, go here and study the communities themselves. Don't sit around and give something to some psychologist who knows less about it than they do, actually. He's been sleeping in a book all of his life. They're going to give it to him and say, yeah, tell me about those.
Oh, no way. This is amazing. This is it. This is what I've been saying my whole life. Like, yo, I had a lawyer that studied criminal psychology, and I know this girl. It's a good girl. A friend of mine, actually. You know, she's a friend. I have to say she's a friend. I'm an asshole. I'm kind of cold, you know. I don't go around saying people are my friends. But once someone considers me a friend and calls me a friend and is looking for friendship, you know, you have to humble yourself. So she's my friend, right? But I'm going to use her as an example. She said there and she told me that criminals don't think about consequences. And she told me that she knew this and I didn't because she went to school for it, that she has a degree in it. Criminals don't think about consequences? Yeah. They don't know shit about anything. They don't know anything about anything because they've been sleeping in a book their whole life. This guy's exactly right. I could give you 1,000 examples, but we're here to see him talk, not me.
Negroes, and all he gets is a psychological report that says nothing.
Well, nevertheless,
He's been sleeping in a book all of his life. They're going to give it to him and say, yeah, tell me about those Negroes, and all he gets is a psychological report that says nothing.
well, nevertheless, it says.
Well, it doesn't say nothing. It's going to say a lot of shit, but it's going to mean nothing.
Something when you're talking about Harlem and you're wondering, for example.
I'll tell you what it says, Norman.
Yeah,
You know what it says? It says, well, here is the most recent word on the Negro community. And now you can take this and mull over it for another couple years and forget the Negro until that time. That's all it has said. That's all it says today.
Well, you still, though, haven't answered my question, the one I started with.
And the same pattern goes today. All the talk about reparations and this and that and the dirt, it all ends up in nothing. Not that I agree with reparation, but they promised the blacks the world. They promised the blacks the world, and they never deliver anything. Republicans or Democrats, they don't deliver anything. And the best, and the Republicans deliver more because they at least stay the fuck out of the way, and that's all the black community really needs. This is a strong, vibrant community of bright people. If you just get the fuck out of their way.
Just, do you think that this business of illegitimacy, of large numbers of illegitimate kids
is no big problem, really?
Why not?
Because people will look. You give people nothing materially, nothing spiritually. Well, what have they got? They've got instincts and urge. Sex is the most natural thing in the world.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's not a big problem.
Yeah, it's not a problem here. That the community isn't that concerned about it. If they're so concerned about you know what you're saying, actually.
Well, I'm asking. I'm not saying.
You're saying,
not yet,
now,
anyway.
wouldn't it be nice if we could get the Negroes to accept what little they have in the ghettos throughout the nation and still not have too many illegitimate children?
Well, I'm not saying that.
Why should the Negroes who've been so deprived in this country?
Well, where I'm not agreeing with this kid right here is that he's got a father. He's got a father. He grew up with a dad. So he's not understanding. I didn't grow up with a dad. And many of his friends didn't grow up. Many people in the black community didn't grow up with a dad. So what he's not actually understanding is that he's blessed. And the more people that grow up without a dad, meaning child out of wedlock, they're not going to be as smart as you, guy. They're not going to be as smart as you. And things are going to retrogress. And they have retrogressed. So this kid right here, I was agreeing with him till now, but now he's got a huge blind spot for what's going on. And I'm in the future of this guy's reality. I'm exactly right. The out of wedlock thing has turned the black ghettos into literally some of the most dangerous places on planet Earth.
Worry about the power structures. Disturbance over their high rate of illegitimacy.
Nobody is suggesting that they ought to worry about the power structure's disturbance. The question is whether this is a factor,
that's not the problem. It's merely a symptom of the overall problem, illegitimacy,
Right,
drug addiction.
right.
Why doesn't anybody say anything
Well,
about
let's
drug
talk.
addiction?
Yeah, let's talk about drugs.
Yeah.
In the book, drugs are the villain in your book. You say when about 1955 it swept Harlem like a plague, and you, thank God, escaped from it. Why do you think drugs took over in the way they did all of a sudden?
You see, my generation was in almost total rebellion. We were rebelling against the previous generation, our parents. We were rebelling against the power structure. We were rebelling against the adult world. We were rebelling against almost everything, all forms of authority. And it's like drugs came at a time when it...
Something that I want to point out over here is that the whole eugenic bullshit was not as widespread. There was no eugenic whatsoever. This man sounds like an American with an accent of some sort, of like a southern accent or a New York accent. This man sounds like a black American man. He doesn't sound foreign. Sometimes now when you hear some dudes about this man's age with the education that goes around now, you can't even understand it. The English is almost a foreign language. Some people literally cannot understand what they're saying. I'm talking about uneducated youths from all cultures. This goes across all boards: black, whites, Hispanics. The ghetto culture has almost become American youth culture, and that has, of course, no education in it. So these people aren't speaking proper. This guy speaks better English than I do, than I'm speaking right now.
When it gave some substance to our rebellion. If we wanted to say that we were different from our parents who had come from the South and who were happy to work in Goldberg's house and scrub his floors.
There you go. That's his accent. He's a black man. He's an American with a southern accent. No slang, no eugenic whatsoever I've heard in this man.
Work downtown for $40 and $50 a week and think they're doing good. It's like, well, how could we show that we were so different? We were living in the same houses with them. We were accepting the same social and economic conditions as they were accepting. So what made us so different? Well, I'll tell you, one of the most prominent features of our behavior that distinguished us from our parents was the fact that in 1950, when drugs began to pour into Harlem, we went to drugs. We used drugs. We got high off heroin. We nodded, but we were cool. We didn't do like our parents had been doing since the plantation days, getting drunk on Saturday night and going around cutting each other up, hitting each other in the head with axes and meat cleavers and shooting each other. All we did, we got high and we nodded and we became lost in our own selves.
You weren't violent.
And this was the distinguishing feature.
Cool?
That's right.
Yeah.
It was part of the rebellion.
Yeah, and it was a rebellion in this case against violence.
So wow, I just learned something right now from this gentleman. So the black youth, according to him, ran to drugs like heroin and not alcohol, so they could be more mellowed out, and I guess weed, so they can be more mellowed out and not be as fucking nuts as their southern parents, which were drinking whiskey and beating the shit out of each other and cutting each other up and beating up their wives, which I'm sure was true, because that's a deep, deep southern culture, which that's the way that culture is. Redneck culture.
No, not so much against violence. Violence was merely a single aspect of our parents' behavior, and it was a rebellion against being identified with our parents. Yeah, to the entire white society.
To the entire white society. But you yourself always knew that drugs was bad business. You escaped it from the beginning, and you always knew it was the worst kind of thing. You think that...
The neighborhood, you could almost feel the aura in the neighborhood. It's just you could tell that these people are nice. These are just nice neighborhoods, you know. There was crime, but they were friendlier. Everybody looking out the windows with big old smiles. Psst. Nowadays, they would have told you, get the fuck out the block, or some crazy shit like that. You would have heard gunshots. Yeah, things have retrogressed like a motherfucker.
I think that the legalization...
I didn't always know this was the worst kind of thing. I would have been a drug addict had I not had such a traumatic experience in my first attempt at getting high off drugs. Well, I thought I was going to die. And so I never went on. But the other two people who tried it with me for the first time, they went on to become drug addicts. And a majority of many people who tried it for the first time, even though they got sick, almost deathly sick, they still went on to become drug addicts.
Imagine if manufacturing automation was...
I'm I'm sorry, but that was funny. He was like, I almost died. Sometimes when that happens, it's a blessing in disguise, man. You know, maybe without hangovers, every fucking body will be an
Simple.
alcoholic.
Introducing Vention. One platform to
These guys have ads. It's a long fucking video.
Well, Claude, some of what you say sort of implies that you're not terribly concerned about the idea or the ideal of integration. Is that true? I mean, that is, do you look forward to a time when whites and Negroes will be living side by side together everywhere with no regard for color, or do you think that that's a less important goal?
Norman. To be realistic, when speaking about integration, look, there's alienation even within ethnic groups. There's
sure
discrimination within ethnic groups. You can't tell some guy who
Oh man, this kid is intelligent as hell, man. He's absolutely right. You know, you want to integrate blacks. Like, do you not understand that when blacks were brought here, they were split up to the point that they were put from different tribes? So when you look at black Americans, like now you might just say all the black Americans, but integrating them is kind of dumb because they've never really been integrated. They've just been integrated with other people that have the same skin tone, but different languages, different cultures, different diets, different traditions. And this was done on purpose, so, you know, to quell rebellion, to make rebellion a lot less likely. This was just, you know, a strategy. So sometimes I wonder too, if a lot of black violence isn't that deep in the black gene. They're not as similar as you would think they are. They're from completely different places in Africa. So assimilation is ridiculous on its face if you want to be serious about it. But if you want to feel, you know, good and dandy, then you assimilate people based on their skin tone, which is fucking ridiculous. You integrate them. I think it's wrong to integrate people, or I think it's wrong to separate people. I just think you just let people be.
who doesn't like drinking, you know, and who doesn't like violence, to live next door to a guy who's always getting drunk and beating up his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's the same thing. You can't tell a Negro, like, look, there's some nice white people around, go and live with them, or there's some nice Negroes, go and live with them. I don't think this is really important. If you treated Negroes as fairly as whites were treated in the country, the power structure treated them, that is, there would be no clamor for integration. I don't think Negroes are too anxious to live among white people. They would just like to have the freedom to live wherever they chose.
Woo! I did not see this video. I know it sounds like I did, but you know, when you think common sense, you're going to agree a lot. I don't agree with him on everything he said, because I don't agree with him on the birth rate not being a big deal. That is fucking crazy, you know. But he's spot on with that. We agreed with that completely. Why the hell would you want to integrate with people? Like, that whole integration shit was ridiculous. Just all you needed to do was drop the Jim Crow laws and let people be. Would have been a lot more peace in this country too. Because let me tell you, it wasn't just the whites that didn't want to live with the blacks. The blacks didn't want to live with the whites either.
While you were talking before, I sensed a certain kind of anger in you and a certain kind of bitterness. Have you changed since the book was written, or am I wrong in my reading of the book?
No. You see,
oh, this guy wrote a fucking book. Well, I gotta find out who this guy is and read his book. Because I don't even know who. I thought this guy was just a street guy. That's why this guy sounds so eloquent. This guy wrote a fucking book.
I was bitter. It's natural for any Negro to be bitter towards the white society. But as I was coming up, I was really...
That's absolutely true, because even I, as a Dominican guy, that my family didn't teach me against Jim Crow. I don't have the slave bug in my system, even though, you know, my ancestors were slavery not too long ago either, and we were the original slave. The Dominican slave is the original slave of the Americas, because where the fuck you think the first people were brought to work the fucking sugar canes? To Dominican Republic, to Cuba, to Puerto Rico. They were brought to America last. So, you know, we've all been slaves here. Everybody that's black on this side of the country and this side of the planet, we were brought here as slaves, but we don't marinate on that. Our culture doesn't really teach us that. But when I came to this country, they marinated on it. When I went to school, they marinated on it, and then they taught us how the blacks were treated here, and they taught us to expect no different. Realistically, school teaches you that shit in America. Public school, New Jersey, teaches you that shit. They fucking do. They do. Elementary. Talk to your kids if you're in Jersey. They're gonna teach them that. So you get that bitterness towards white that I had also. So it is natural for a black to be bitter against whites because, like I said, I'm not even from here, and I was bitter towards them just with like 4 years of education, of American education, and
releasing
propaganda.
all of my bitterness throughout my childhood. That's what my delinquent activities were all about. You know, it was a rebellion.
It was more
And
a
at the
rebellion
same
against
time,
your parents than against the whites, wasn't it?
No, against, I stole very little from my parents. They had very little to steal.
Yeah.
I stole more from the white society.
I mean, you
believe
were
me.
rebelling against the down home.
I told you, we were
thing.
rebelling against everything.
Everything.
You know, that's right. You know, from the top on down. Now, what you just said about my lack of bitterness, it's like I can't go around. I could never become a black chauvinist because I've been well helped along the way, you know, immensely by white people. It's hard for somebody, like if you're laying down on the ground dying, you know, and some Negro has stabbed you and laid you down there and left you to bleed, and a lot of other Negroes come by and watch you, you know, and step over you or step on you on the way, and some white man comes and picks you up. How do you say, oh, that no good white man, let me kill him? You've got to be a madman. Yeah, so what do you get the bitterness for?
That actually happened to a rapper called Lil Wayne. That is fucking crazy that this guy is saying something like that. This is like almost, I'm like mind blown. But yeah, this happened exactly to Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne got shot, and he was there bleeding to death. Got shot by a black guy, and you know his black brothers, neighbors, whatever you want to call them, when you're stepping over him, to a white guy came and saved his life. And to this day, Lil Wayne is friends with this white man. You guys should go check out that story.
All I can say is that in about 4 or 8 years, I hope we're going to be seeing you as Congressman Brown.
I hope so too, Norm. It's been fun.
I have to get the fuck out of here. You see what I'm talking about? You see what I'm talking about? The fucking gay ass propaganda. I have to see what's up with this dude. I have to see what's up with him. His last name is Brown, but I'm definitely going to check him out. I'm going to read his book. I thought it was interesting. He agrees with a lot of my thoughts. I want to see where he's coming from. But that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for stopping by.